Well, hi everybody, welcome to The Firewall. I'm Bill Whittle. You know, if you listen to the mainstream media talk about it, we Tea Party conservatives just love us, our guns, on account of them making us feel like big men, because they're real loud and they make things far away blow up real good. To which I say, well, duh. But just because something is fun and scares away weenies doesn't mean that it's stupid. The philosophical substrata for gun ownership is something most gun owners understand in their bones. They don't need to be told any of what I'm about to tell you, because this kind of wisdom is inherent for many people. That's why we call it common sense. Now, have you ever wondered why the people who really enjoy telling others what to do and how to live, those fun-loving intellectual elites, seem to be so in love with totalitarian states where people are unarmed and where survival is utterly dependent on the goodwill of some of the worst people in the world? Look at the examples of Hitler, Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao, and Saddam, and the horrors that they've inflicted on their own people. Then ask yourselves what, in an unarmed population, stands in the way of determined, heartless bastards like the SS, or the Cossacks, or the Revolutionary Guard, or bands of Hutu militia. You see, the framers, in their wisdom, put the Second Amendment into the Constitution to give teeth to the revolutionary, unheard of idea that the power rests with we the people. They didn't depend on goodwill or promises. They made sure that when push came to shove, we the people would be the ones doing the pushing and the shoving. Criminals and criminal regimes throughout all of human history have and will conspire to take by force what they cannot produce on their own, and these people must be stopped. The genius of the men who wrote the Second Amendment is that they realized that these people could be anybody, including people like those that wrote the Second Amendment. And that's why this power, like the other powers, is vested in the people. Nowhere else in the world is this the case. You cannot remove that linchpin of trust without collapsing the entire structure. America suffers an appalling number of handgun-related deaths each year, perhaps 11,000 of them, and each is a personal tragedy, and those lives can never be replaced. But if we attempt to reduce this horrible number by banning all handguns, we are taking away the property of a person who has broken no laws. And it's being done by a government whose legitimacy is determined by a document that specifically allows that property, namely guns. You destroy that trust by punishing the innocent, by pulling a plank from the Bill of Rights, and the contract between the government and the people falls apart. Once the Second Amendment goes, the First will soon follow, because if some social engineering genius determines that real people can't be trusted with dangerous guns, then it's just a matter of time until they decide that they can't be trusted with dangerous ideas either. Dangerous ideas have killed many millions more people than dangerous handguns. Just listen to the voices calling to you from the Gulag and the death camps and all of the blood-soaked killing fields throughout human history. You either trust the people or you don't. Now, here is my dry-eyed, cold-hearted, sad conclusion. I believe that the freedom, convenience, and economic viability provided by the automobile is worth the 40,000 lives we lose to automotive deaths every year, a number made more horrible by the fact that perhaps 40% of them are related to drunk driving and therefore preventable. By the same calculation, I accept that the freedoms entrusted to the people of the United States is worth the 11,000 lives we lose to gun violence every year. I wish I could make both of those numbers go away. I'll support any reasonable campaign to make them as low as possible. But understand this, 11,000 handgun deaths a year over 4 years is very roughly 50,000 killed. In Nazi Germany, with a tenth of our current population, an unarmed people was unable to resist the abduction and murder of 6 million Jews and about 9 million additional gypsies, homosexuals, prisoners of war, the disabled, and untold other individuals in a similar period. That is a number 300 times higher. Now you throw in the midnight murders of the Soviets and the Chinese, the various and sundry African and South American genocides and purges and political intimidation and all the rest, and that number grows to many thousand times more killings in an unarmed population than you see in an armed one. There is a dead murder victim in an armed society. There is a ditch filled with 1,000 people in an unarmed one. Just assume for a moment that you could vaporize every gun on the planet. Would crime go away? Or would ruthless, physically strong gangs of young men be essentially able to roam free and predate at will? The entire history of civilization shows time and time and time again how decent, sophisticated city dwellers amass wealth through trade, cooperation, and the division of labor, only to be victimized by ruthless gangs of raping, looting cutthroats who couldn't make a fruit basket, sweeping down on them, murdering them, and carting away the loot and the women to return a few years later, forever ad infinitum. The Vikings, the Mongols, desperados of every stripe, they are a cancer on humanity, but there they are, and there they have always been, and likely there they will always be. Here in America, back in our cowboy past, we had an expression: God created man, but Sam Colt made them equal. It means that even a school teacher can defeat a human predator who may have spent his entire life practicing violence. Guns level the playing field to the point that a woman can defend herself against a gang of thugs, or a single police officer can control a brawling mob. You know, it should be abundantly clear by now that the rate of handgun murders in the United States is not uniform. The murder rate of downtown Philadelphia is horrifying, but the murder rate in the suburbs of nearby Valley Forge, let's say, where there are probably more handguns and hunting rifles per square yard than any other spot on the planet, is virtually non-existent. Now, if guns are responsible for these murders, then middle-class suburbs like Valley Forge and Plano, Texas, let's say, should be running red with blood, but they're not. And not only do those people not murder each other with their abundant firearms, other crimes like burglary and assault are also virtually non-existent compared with cities with the most gun restrictions. Now, why is that? If guns cause crime and murder, why are the places with the most legally owned handguns such low crime areas? I can wait. But all of that is trivial compared to the real danger, which is the slow erosion of self-reliance, self-confidence, self-determination, and self-control among a nation. The more your government restricts your options, the more you psychologically look to government to keep you safe, fed, clothed, housed, and sustained. You know, there's a word for people who are kept safe, fed, clothed, housed, and sustained fully by others, and that word is slaves. Slaves are not allowed to own guns. Why? Well, because if they were, slavery wouldn't last very long, would it? From the Revolution until today, the choice for full freedom with all of its accompanying excesses and failures is a profoundly well-reasoned, moral, and ethical choice, and the result has been national and personal success unparalleled in the history of this world. Other people think that they are smart enough to pull that major thread from that tapestry of success, confident that nothing will unravel. History shows us that those people have never been right before. We conservatives, who not only read but who also understand history, are not willing to let them try it again. That's why we had a Tea Party then, and that's why we have one now. My friends, we need your help to keep these messages coming. Go to declarationentertainment.com and consider becoming a citizen producer. I'm Bill Whittle, and we'll see you next time on The Firewall.